In today's society, we are told to dream big and strive for success. But how are we supposed to do that if we maintain in our comfort zone? My name is Kelsey Shaw. I'm a senior public relations major here at Biola, graduating in May with the hopes of going into the magazine industry or an agency post-graduation. You can find my online portfolio at kelseycshaw.com. So today for my presentation, I'm going to be breaking it off into 3 sections. The first section is how stretching yourself is crucial through my personal experience. Then we'll go how stretching yourself is crucial within the industry, and then we'll analyze a biblical character at the end and see what their benefits were to stepping outside their comfort zone and trusting in the Lord. So overall, I want to acknowledge that stepping outside of your comfort zone is not a one-time thing. And the end goal of it is actually growth in character and growth of what kind of professional you are. So to step outside your comfort zone, that means failure, and that also means doing it time and time again to create it to be a habit. And when you do this, that's when you overall lead to the end goal of growth. So I'm going to be talking about the first experience that I ever tangibly stepped outside my comfort zone. And that is when I left my hometown of Minneapolis, and I decided to do so my senior year when I decided to come out to California to go to attend Biola University. That I made that decision when I was 18-year-old 3 years ago. And I'm so happy that I made that decision, and that choice that I made when I was 18 actually led to an abundance of growth in my character, in my spiritual life, and my skills as a public relations professional. So that was a catalyst for growth. And so when I got to Biola, I actually had a major change. When I came into the school, I had the hopes of being a business major and going into the corporation. So when I got here, I found the major public relations, and I thought, oh, that sounds like a better fit to me. But I was extremely intimidated by the writing aspect of it, and I was unsure of my writing. I wasn't confident of how public relations writing was structured. I'm much more of a creative writer. So the idea of this really intimidated me when I got into the public relations major. And through professors that challenged me and pushed me to grow, I was able to gain confidence in my writing skills and was able to stretch myself and grow in that aspect. And lastly, a choice of growth with my academic life was choice of clients. So at Biola University, we were able to make campaigns and write for multiple clients of our choosing. And when I came to Biola, I for sure thought that choice of clients would be a lot of corporations, a bunch of large corporations, but I started kind of being pulled towards the magazines, and big magazines and small magazines, which I was quite surprised about. But through these choice of clients, I actually found a love for that industry, and it actually brought me to the choice of what I want to do after graduation, and also it led me to internships. So I was able to stretch myself through internships. Here are just a few of the ones that I completed at my time at college, and I was able to stretch myself through doing internships at small businesses, at large businesses. I got to tap into the marketing industry, agency, magazine, event planning. I got a little bit of taste of it all, and through that I was able to grow, and through that I was able to take skills that I learned from each of them and bring them and be the professional that I am today. So now going into the public relations industry and how stretching yourself is crucial. So as we know, we hear all the time that public relations is a constantly changing industry, and that's kind of intimidating to us to know that the industry in 10 years is going to be completely different than what we're learning today in the industry that we're in today. So it kind of makes sense that public relations professionals would adapt and would be constantly stepping outside of their comfort zone to keep up with the industry and change the industry. Some of the things that we have to keep up with is technology, and the other thing is the changing media landscapes. But something that we can have confidence in is at the core of public relations, it will maintain the same for the most part. And if we can be confident in those core keys of public relations, then we're going to be able to step outside of our comfort zone and try new things and become a better industry while maintaining at the core of who we are as public relations. Some of those key aspects is that our public has a voice, that we are created to connect our publics and advocate for them with the clients that we're representing. And secondly, measurement. Measurement is so crucial within the public relations industry, and that's not going to change anytime soon. To better your company and better your public, you have to measure with the things that you're doing within the public relations field. And lastly, writing. Writing is crucial, and if you always are making sure that your writing is as strong as it can be, that is when you'll be able to step outside of your comfort zone with writing while having confidence in your writing skills. And lastly, just acknowledging and knowing and being confident in the fact that change is for the better. The public relations industry that was 10 years ago, it's gotten a lot better, and that's not from all these professionals staying in their comfort zones, that's from these professionals being creative and trying new things and pushing the limits. So now I'm going to discuss the risks of stepping outside of your comfort zone and the benefits. And some of these words that we see in the risk category are failure, rejection, regret, identity loss, and loss of control. Those words are not an easy pill to swallow. Those words kind of bring up a nasty feeling within us, and that's because we've all felt them, and we've all felt those words not just once, but time and time again in our personal lives and our professional lives. And those are completely valid feelings because as humans, at the core of that is when we're leaving something known for something that we're uncertain in, and that's when a lot of the time those feelings come up. But I'm here to say that the benefits are much greater than those feelings we feel. Those feelings are temporary, and if time and time again you step outside your comfort zone and challenge yourself and push yourself to grow, those feelings will go away and they won't be valid to you anymore. So some of the benefits of letting go of and stepping outside your comfort zone is that you let go of perfection. So a lot of the time we put a box around ourselves of perfection. We think that in order to be a good professional, we have to be perfect, but that's actually not the truth. One time I actually had a boss of mine at an internship come up to me and say, "Kelsey, it seems that you're trying to be too perfect, and in that you aren't allowing yourself to be creative." And I was really taken back by that because I thought an intern's job was to, be perfect, but I realized that perfection doesn't mean you're not still striving for your best you and your best work you can be, but perfection is being able to break free of those limitations. Once as humans we realize that we're not perfect and that people around us aren't perfect, that's when we're able to be more vulnerable with one another and extend grace to others in the professional industry. And that breaking of limitation will allow you to do the best work you can. Next, you will inspire others. We all know that person where they don't know it, but they are a role model to us. They don't know it, but just by how they lead quietly, that is such an inspiration to us and how they are constantly growing. And they aren't content with the person they are now. They love themselves, but they're not content with where they're at. They're always wanting to grow. That kind of person is who's an inspiration for us. And if we choose to do that within the industry, who's to say that we can't change an entire company? Who's to say we can't change an entire industry? If we sit where we're comfortable and do the work that was on our job description, you're not going to make a difference. You're not going to inspire others. You're going to get work done. You're going to get paid for it, but you're not going to make a change in the industry if you just leave it at that. Always be striving to make a difference. Always be striving to do the best work that you can. The third thing is that you define yourself authentically. A lot of the time when we think of our comfort zone, that's actually something that we created ourselves and something that we think that society created for us. But when you break free of that box of comfort that you put around yourself, that's when you're actually able to see your actual limitations. That's when you're actually to see your actual capacity. And that's when you're actually to be able to define yourself authentically. A lot of the time within the industry, we look at branding, for instance, and we see the trends of branding within companies. And a lot of the times, they kind of go in waves and trends. And although there are benefits of kind of looking at your company's branding or your self-branding and looking at someone else's, some other person, some other companies, and you compare, it all starts to become the same, and therefore nothing really stands out. When you're able to step outside that zone of comfort of, oh, this is what other people are doing, so I must be needing to do this as well. I must be needing to do public relations with these exact methods as they are. That is when you're able to authentically define yourself and authentically brand yourself for what brand you want to be and what brand you have. And lastly, by taking steps outside your comfort zone in the industry, that actually leads to more job satisfaction, and you actually are going to get a lot more from your professional experience. When you simply leave at work at 5 o'clock and you leave saying, okay, I got my job done, I did all my tasks, but you didn't really try that hard to make a difference, you didn't really try that hard to do anything else but those tasks, that's when you don't really get satisfaction. You think, okay, I checked bunch of things off the list and that feels good temporarily, but in the long term, I don't really feel much with that. When you are able to take those tasks and complete them well, but complete them while stretching yourself and making sure you're growing through that, that's when you're able to get more satisfaction. So Al Reese, the chairman of the Atlanta-based consulting firm, Reese & Reese, states, it's public relations that needs to be creative. It's public relations that needs to be new and different. It's public relations that needs to be original. The best way to establish a brand is to create a new category, and creating a new category requires creative thinking of the highest order. So this quote is actually something that inspires me to realize that stepping outside of my comfort zone when I enter the industry isn't actually a choice, it's an obligation. When we sign up to go into the public relations field, it's actually our duty to be creative. It's actually our duty to create new categories that require highest thinking of the highest order, as Al Reese states. When I realized this is when I realized that to be able to connect with people and get on the level as your Publix, to be able to really understand what your client is needing, you can't be in your comfort zone. You need to be able to extend outside of that, as well as you can't be able to put a box around your client or your public. So that leads me to the call to relationships. So public relations is all about creating that mutually beneficial relationships. And in order to do so, you have to represent your client to your best of your abilities, and you have to advocate for your public. We've all had those times where we're starting a new relationship with someone, with another client or with a public, and it's kind of uncomfortable at first because you're not understanding what they need. But in order to create real mutually beneficial relationships, you have to understand your public's need. You have to be able to strip down your pride and put on humility and understand that you are not defined by a box, and neither is your public. And also that your public isn't a mass, that your public is created of certain people, each individuals, and understanding that, I believe that you can be the best public relations professional that you can. So now I'm going to kind of analyze the story of Esther a bit and see how she stepped outside of her comfort zone and trusted in God. So just to briefly go over, the story of Esther represented God's love and sovereignty. And when Mordecai went to Esther, telling her of Haman's plan to wipe out the Jews, Esther's people, this is what he tells Esther. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this. So during this time, Mordecai went to Esther and said, this is what's going on, and you have a choice whether to speak up and go to the king, or you have a decision to be quiet. And Esther, that's clearly not in her comfort zone to go to the king and tell him of Haman's plan and try to save her people, but she did it. And she did that not because of her own confidence, she did that because of trust in the Lord. And because of her faith and her courage, she was able to save her people. So that leads me to the idea of trust. Being able to step outside your comfort zone doesn't come from your own will. It requires a complete trust in the Lord. You aren't able to step outside your comfort zone with strength unless you have a core identity of who you are in the Lord and your limitations through Him. So overall, thank you so much for your time today, talking about stepping outside your comfort zone and the benefits to that. I'd love to open up the floor to any questions.